And the recording is on. Go.
Excellent. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to listeners of The New Path. My name is Millie Gormely. I am a middle aged white chick from Thunder Bay, Ontario, who lives life and works as a certified financial planner. And I'm here with my good friend, Sandi Boucher. We are here to talk about many wonderful things. If you've listened to our recent and or earlier podcast episodes, you know this is going to be a good time. I am looking forward to another good time. So, Sandi, tell us about the good time we're going to have today.
Every time you say that, before I do my introduction, every time you do the middle-aged white chick, I lose it because I just love it. Like that is often, we've had a conversation about authenticity. That is authenticity without any kind of shame. It's owning who you are. I love it. I absolutely love it. It makes me want to rename the podcast like middle-aged niche chick and middle-aged white chick.
You know what?
Yeah.
Hey, there's worse things you can call yourself for one.
But you know what? Okay, my only problem, what's the definition of middle-aged?
Well, it's interesting. I had that conversation with my sister a couple of years ago. She was turning 40, I think it was, or 40 or
Okay.
44. And she's like, I'm not middle age. I'm not middle age. I'm still young. I'm still young. She's desperately clinging to this idea of youth. And I said, okay, well, how old are you? And she's like, 43, 44, I think it was at the time. And I said, what is the average life expectancy for a woman your age in Canada? About 88. Do the math. You're about as middle aged as you could possibly get. Do the math.
Yeah, so at time of recording, my birthday's next weekend and I turn 60. So
Yeah,
that's why I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm pushing the definition of middle-aged. But hey, I'll take it. I'll
I'll go
take
with
it.
middle aged too. I
So,
mean, my birthday was last Friday and I'm 54 now. I don't expect to
ah,
live to 108. I don't particularly
yes.
want to live to 108, but I think middle aged as well as that whole transition time that women have around the menopause thing. It's it's a time of a lot of change and a lot of upheaval and a lot of choices that we can make that are going to determine the trajectory of the rest of our lives. So I'm okay to be middle aged for a while. I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm kind of settling into it and enjoying the new power that you have that you don't have as a younger person. But hey, how about you introduce
Yeah.
yourself before we get way too deep into this?
Mishko Paganon Queen additional cost blah blah. Mishnon Queen additional cost Mungdo Dam. Hi everybody. My name is Sandi Boucher. What I just said in Ojibwe is that I'm Red Thunderbolt woman of the Loon clan. I'm also a proud member of Seine River First Nation in Treaty 3 territory in Northern Ontario. I live in the city of Thunder Bay, which is what Millie and I have in common, besides a long-lasting friendship and also a working relationship because Millie happens to be my financial advisor, and the amazing life I enjoy now is largely to her guidance and a lot to her patience. While Sandy got her shit together on her side of things. So it took some doing. And you know what? I just want to put this out there.
Mm,
We decided to do this podcast because we wanted to empower women. And we
mhm.
understood for a variety of reasons, whether it was your background, whether it was your current day, whatever the circumstances of your journey, whatever it was, for so many reasons, women are not empowered. They don't believe in their own strength. They don't realize their own wisdom or their skill set. What did I just say? So this is going to be the Amazon dude.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, I'll be right downstairs.
Okay.
Thanks. Yes, I'll be right downstairs. Okay, thanks. We're going to start that again, my intro, I guess.
Yeah,
I
I think
hope.
that's good.
Be right
Okay, go
back.
get go
Yep.
get your package. I'll be here.
Debbie, say hi to Stormy while I'm gone.
Hi, Stormy. How you doing, kitty? Hi. Oh, you're such a pretty kitty. You are. You know you are. And I'm not the first person to tell you that either on camera. Yeah, you don't worry about what camera filter you're using. You just sit there and look pretty. I'll be right back. I gotta get water. There, cat is last. What'd you get? What'd you get? Oh, you're muted. You're still muted.
You're
Okay, there you
muted.
go. There you go.
I know I'm a breath.
By the way,
So,
I'm hearing a little bit of crackling on your mic. So I don't know if you've got a loose cable or something or what, but a little bit of snap, crackle, pop going on back there.
I do not know. New mic. Ah. Okay, so to the people listening, I had warned Millie beforehand, like Millie had told you in past episodes, that this is real. This is just her and I having a conversation. It's not pre-recorded. It's not fancy. It's a relationship. And now I'm out of breath because I had to interrupt this podcast to run downstairs to get my Amazon package. Pretty sure I don't want to discuss my online shopping habits with my financial advisor, but
Yeah,
so what
well,
are you saying? Oh, sorry.
I'm waiting on a Sephora package right now, so I'm really not on the moral high ground here.
I just went to Sephora for the first time like a couple of weeks ago.
It's probably good that you haven't been before now.
My wallet got so nervous. It was
Yeah.
shaking in my purse. But what I was saying before I ran to get my Amazon order, the reality is so many women, for whatever reason, are disempowered. But, and here's the important part, and I know Millie believes this and preaches this, and I'm a living example of it. I didn't grow up with money. I didn't learn how to manage money. I had no idea how to have money. Poverty, I can do. $5 in the bank, and hang on, I got a master's in that. But you're never too old to learn.
Yes.
You can learn if you find that person. And for me, Millie is my person who you can ask those questions and say, like, what's the best? Here's what I want. And Millie is amazing for this. Tell me your goals. Tell me what you're trying to achieve. Then she'll explain how to get there. So it's not someone else's plan, right? Like I've debated home ownership for years, and everyone else, and many people are like, you got to own a home. Me, I still don't know if I want to do that, right?
Or else
And
what?
that's
Like, does that suit your lifestyle? Is that the right thing for you to do? Because I totally agree with you. A financial plan or a life plan in general has got to be about what suits you. And I think sometimes society certainly would love us to just sort of fall into the script that we're written. And because it's simpler, it's easier to just, well, I do what I'm supposed to do because that's what my parents did, or that's what my friends did, or that's what the people I grew up with did. And your life is your life, and you are worth taking the time and spending the energy and figuring out what exactly you want your life to look like, and then figuring out how you're going to make it happen.
And the other thing, you have the option to change your mind.
Yes.
I know in younger days, I have a bucket list. Like it's written out on my wall. I can see it from my desk. That's how serious my bucket list is. And several times I've looked at it and it's like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I guess that was important to me 10 years ago, but this is no longer a priority. So off it goes. I might add something new. I have a really long list, so I'm not desperate for things I want to do. I got a lot. But in the course of that conversation, that's why we do this podcast, because we are real.
Mhm,
We have been there. We
mhm,
enjoy great lives now, but there were
mhm.
times that things were rocky and unsure. And I know Millie, she's talked about her health challenges in the
Yeah.
past. She's changed jobs and started over several times.
Yep.
I am an expert at starting over. So don't ever think, we always end up thinking that someone else had it easier or their path to success was a straight line.
Yeah, that's garbage.
Bumpiest, rockiest, when
Yeah.
you least expected, things were thrown at you, which, guess what, is a perfect lead in to the theme for today, because today the T in the PATH acronym is tenacity. Don't give
Mhm.
up. Keep
Yes.
going, right? So, Millie, I'm going to throw it back to you. What
Well,
came to mind when you thought of tenacity? What's some examples of when you just had to keep going,
oh Lord, so many.
right?
Yeah, and obviously the older you get, the more examples you have to look back on. But for me, I think that the thing that comes to mind is the sort of career challenges I've had over the years. Like being a financial planner is not my first career, and certainly I've had multiple careers concurrently. So I started off, working in broadcasting years and years ago, and I kind of kept that up concurrently for 20 years with doing everything else I was doing. I've worked in administration. I've worked in temp agencies. I've worked as a real estate appraiser. I was training to be a real estate appraiser, doing admin for a company while learning, taking courses. Since I was 16, I've always been either in school and working, or working at least two jobs and taking courses. My
Wow.
personal best record was 1 year I had, I think it was 4 or 5 T4 slips, because I had one temp job in the morning, I had another one in the afternoon. I was working at a modeling agency of all things, nowhere near the models, I was in the office. Um, I was working for the Ministry of Transportation. I was a, whatchamacallit, insurance claims adjuster for many
Wow.
years, did that. And yeah, so basically up until my back blew up on me and my spine said, "You're done," I've always been doing 1,000 different things. And the idea of sticking to one thing was kind of difficult in some ways, because, well, you're missing out on opportunities. And what if that one
Mm,
thing doesn't work out? Now you're putting all your eggs in one basket, right? But one thing I did have to learn is that when you do kind of find something that you can go with, and that kind of speaks to you, and that you can sort of make your mission in life, then it's worth it to drop the other things. Now, me, I was kind of forced to drop the other things by my health, but I've learned that lesson now, that, if I'm doing another project, it's a fun project. So I might be working and doing a play, or I might be working and playing in, the band or the brass quintet that I'm in. And so the when I talk about work and my career and my mission in life, this is it. I do
yeah.
not have a side hustle. This is where my focus is. This is where it has to be, and this is where I've had to start over many times, due to my health, due to business relationships going awry due to COVID, and yeah, just there's a certain stubbornness that you have to be comfortable with in order
Yeah.
to survive sometimes. You know
Well,
that.
and I think that goes, I have never been called stubborn in my life. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
I'm calling BS on that one, girl.
um, tenacity. I like tenacity better.
It sounds
Tenacious. I'm
prettier, yes,
tenacious,
than
right? Exactly. It sounds
stubborn.
less
Stubborn like
negative,
mule. Strong like ox, stubborn like mule.
right? Well, and you touched on this in a previous episode where we've both mentioned how the entrepreneurial journey is the biggest personal growth journey you're ever going to go on.
Yep.
And I think tenacity ties into, if you want other people to believe in what you do and what you say, you better believe in what you do and what you say and keep at it.
Yes.
I've mentioned to so many people now, like I'm in my 15th year in business, and it's just so much easier than year 1 to 5.
Oh
But if
God,
I
yeah.
hadn't, right? But if we
Yeah.
hadn't kept going in year 1 to 5, and sometimes I was running on pure faith
Hmm.
that this is going to happen, like I just got to keep my nose to the grindstone and keep
Yeah.
doing this, uh, I would have never got to year 15,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So for me, I think it was a more practical journey in that, well, and okay, being Indigenous, the whole internalized oppression, if there's one
Hmm.
thing we're known for is not having goals. Like, having that comfortable life is probably winning 649 to us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though, and it's kind of frustrating looking back on this, and I'm certain it was frustrating to them, but looking back in my like elementary and high school years, I was a straight A student. I won
Hmm.
every award that was out there, whether it was art, whether it was academic, whatever it was. I was straight. I got an award for having straight A's from kindergarten to grade 6. Not even
Good
kidding.
Lord. I
Right.
thought I
And
was a
I
nerd.
just, and
Gross.
I just loved school. So when I got into high school, my teachers were like almost betting, like, what's she going to be? She's going to be a lawyer. She's going to be a doctor, whatever.
Yeah.
And I did end up going to college. Guess what for? And I'm not
What would
downing
you
this
have gone to
profession in
college?
any way, shape, or form.
Nursing?
Like if this
Teaching?
office administration,
Being
a
somebody's
secretary,
secretary. Yeah.
because I was fascinated by law, but there's no way I could become a lawyer. But if I could
Yeah.
be a secretary in a law office,
Yeah.
now we're talking.
I mean, part of that
So,
is sort of the culture or the
oh,
expectations
100.
of the culture for you at that time. Part of it is our age too. Like my own
Well, and
grandmother said when I was 16, why does she want to college go to college for? She will just get married. Like that was the
yeah,
expectation for me
and
as well at
and
that
and
time.
for me, my mom was terrified I wanted to go to college
Yeah.
because she couldn't protect me that far away.
Mm.
And she knew that I had lived in this bubble of her and my dad protecting me from what the world, how they treated Indigenous women. And I grew up incredibly naive, and I was about to find out really super fast. I went to college, I ended up dropping out because maybe some of the listeners can relate. When you come from a really strict home, and then suddenly you're in a dorm
Woo!
where you got to set your alarm and it's up to you to get yourself to class. Let's put it
Yeah.
this way, I dropped out before they kicked my butt out of there.
Mm.
That November deadline where it depends your attendance. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gone.
Oh,
So I ended up getting married. It was, anyone who follows my careers knows it's an abusive relationship, but it resulted in my children. So no regrets. But 5 years later, I now have a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and I need to feed them
yeah.
because I was stay at home mom. So I got a job as a secretary. I knew I could do that. I can answer phones. I can be friendly. I can figure out this stuff. I've got it
Right.
almost from day one. Now, this is, I don't know if you can relate to this or if it happened to you, but it's almost like all through my life, there were little hints of who I really was, even when I doubted myself.
Mm.
So I had this secretary job, but almost from day one, the boss, who happened to be female, had the corner office with the huge desk with a ton of work on it. I wasn't sure what she did all day, but it seemed really important and she had a lot of it to do. She was never bored.
Yep.
I wanted to be her.
Yeah.
I wanted to have the corner office. I had no idea how I was going to get there,
Yeah.
but that became my goals. So executive director, because I was working in a nonprofit. So that's the top position. And I told my mom that like one
Hmm.
day, and I can remember taking, I don't know if you ever did this, but taking like a goal course, like so a
Goal setting
seminar for one
course.
day. Yeah.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
had to write down what you want to accomplish in a year, in 5 years, and in 20 years.
Yeah.
And I wrote, I will be executive director in 20 years. They have to rework that form because it took 20 years, but I became executive director.
There you go.
Should have said 10. But what I didn't know was, and all I did, I had 2 kids to feed, and my focus was the bigger the paycheck, the more food on the table for my kids, the better their Christmas. So I went back to college 3 different times. No skipping this time. I had a mission. I had kids to feed. Like every time a job came up, there was either a bigger budget or more staff to supervise or both. I bid for it. I was climbing that ladder. Now, if someone had told me that my marriage would have to crash and burn, and I would be so upset and so embarrassed and everything that I would sell off everything and move to Toronto, which is where I'd land my dream job, I would have told them they were nuts. But when I saw that job ad in that Toronto paper and the list of qualifications, and I literally checked off every single one.
Yeah.
And I love that Mom lived long enough for me to say to her, I did it. I'm executive director. But then Mom died. I realized I was in my mid 40s and I had already achieved my lifetime goal. That seemed a little depressing. Like, what do I do now?
What do you do now? Where's there to go?
I had always wanted to be in business. So I decided to go into business, and that was 15 years ago. But there were so many times. Okay, let's talk lockdown. I provide seminars to live audiences, and before lockdown, all of my business was live events. I lost 48 grand in 24 hours with events canceling. I did my mandatory 3 days in bed crying because I was pretty sure I was going to starve to death.
As one is more than entitled to do.
Well, I think the grieving process is important.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, right? And then on day 3, it was like, Sandi, you started from 0 before. That was 10 years ago. What you have now is experience. You know how to market. You've done Zoom meetings. You've done sessions online once in a blue moon. I guess you can do that. Remember the training course you just took about how to create video courses? I guess you got time to create them now.
I guess you do.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I'm never going to come out and say that COVID was a good thing in and of itself.
100%.
Obviously not. Lots of people died. It was a terrible thing. But
horrible.
You know what? As with anything else, good things came out of COVID. And not just for you and me, for a lot of people and for a lot of industries even, COVID was that kick in the butt that needed to happen in order to move things forward or to make things different. Same for me as well. I mean, I was in a business relationship before COVID that was getting pretty sour and it was not working very well, and I was terrified because I didn't know how it was going to end. And COVID gave, I guess, us the excuse to sever that business relationship, and then I was on my own. And then the idea of going online and being more of a virtual advisor and meeting with people who weren't in my geographical area was something I'd been toying with for quite a long time. But it didn't ever seem possible because the infrastructure wasn't there for it. You know, what happens when you need a signature? You're going to have to go down to Toronto and get the signature from this client, aren't you? But no, within 3 weeks. It was funny. It was funny, before COVID. Oh yeah, we're going to be able to do this someday. We're working on it, but it's not really ready for prime time yet. Oh no, we don't accept digital signatures. Within 3 weeks of the first lockdown, all of a sudden DocuSign is a thing and everything works and everything's online. And imagine that. So
survival's a thing, right?
It is. Yeah.
And what I noticed was, and I think it reminded me of the teaching that you survive by adapting.
Absolutely. Yes.
And lockdown forced us to adapt. Now I am one of the lucky ones. I can say my business is stronger than it ever has been because now I do both. And the
Yeah.
other thing was I was actually like, I wanted to make more money. I don't apologize for that. I wanted to grow my business, but I was literally okay. I didn't understand scalability yet.
Mm.
Hmm, gonna put that
Well,
out
it's
there.
hard when your business is dependent on you being physically in the room with your
Right?
clients.
So I was literally at the point where my adult children were saying, Mom, we're starting to get scared. You are on the road so much, you're
Right?
exhausted, something's going to happen. And then lockdown happened. And so
Yeah.
mom's
That's
not
not what
on the
happened
road.
in mine, but yeah.
Mom's not even in the yard. So,
Yeah.
but when it ended, and I now had this option for virtual, I was like, you know what? I am never doing that again. Yes, I want a strong company. Yes, I want to grow it, but not to that level of exhaustion.
Yeah.
I just will not. And I learned about scalability. I learned about passive income and having things to sell while I'm sleeping, right? The
Yeah.
automation of my website. So it was just such a huge growth process. But back to tenacity, if we
Hmm.
had given up,
Hmm.
then you close the door on the learning,
Yeah.
right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah. If
yeah,
you've got the kernel and the core of something that you really love and that you believe in, and for me, it was, these are the people I want to work with. Then you've got something that you can work with to adapt. You've got that little lump of clay that
yeah,
you can mold and make it adapt to the
yeah,
circumstances that are in front of you. So for me, it was also an opportunity to really refine and think about who I want to work with and
yeah,
how I want to connect with them and how we can reach each other and find each other, and that's something I'm still doing today. I mean, that's something that's a constant thing in business is kind of refining who you work with because there are still limitations. Scalability is one thing, but there are still limitations of time and space, and I am only one person, and I'm not interested in building an empire where I hire a
yeah,
bunch of people to do my job for me with clients. I want to be meeting
no.
with the clients myself. That's my hill to die on. So yeah, it's just the flexibility that so tenacity is one thing, but flexibility is maybe the other side of that coin.
Well, and that's 100%. Like, okay, I'm going to make a distinction, and I don't know if this is accurate as far as look it up in the dictionary, but I think that's the difference between tenacity and being stubborn.
Yeah.
To me,
Okay.
when I hear being stubborn, I'm going to do the same dang thing over and over and over until it works. Dude, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Adjust something, right?
Yes.
Tweak something. I'm not
Yeah.
saying give up who you are. For example, what you just said, I have come to realize, and I don't mean this in any sense of an ego trip, but I am good at what I do because of how I do it. It's me, it's my personality that makes people comfortable, creates that safe space so they can ask difficult questions. And I
Same.
used to think I could just hire people that could do that, like you just said. That
No,
doesn't
there's
work. What I
there's
can
some
do
things
is
that aren't
hire,
scalable.
but I can get people to do my social media for me.
Hmm.
I can do people to do my sales and reaching out for me, right?
Yeah.
Even though I'm going to touch base with them at some point because I love that part, but they're not everything is transferable to someone
Yes.
else. But oh
Yeah,
my
I think
God,
it's
I don't. If you look back at the beginning of your career,
mm,
this career, I guess,
yeah.
like I mean, literally, there are some things I used to do and that's what saved me after lockdown. I would never do that again because that was such the long, hard way of doing it.
Oh
And I
my
now just
lord.
know, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I will never do my own bookkeeping again.
I used to
'Cause
do that. Oh my God.
right? I
Yes.
co I
Yes.
collect my rece I'm old school enough, I don't even have an app. Like, I suppose I should
Nope.
probably do that, and
Neither
I'm
do
sure my
I.
bookkeeper will give me heck if I don't at some point. But I gather up paper receipts, and I stuff them in an envelope, and I bring them in once a quarter and say, "Here, make this make sense." And she makes it make sense, and that works for me because it would take me literally a day and a half, you know, every
100%.
quarter to do this. It's like, it's not worth my
And
time.
it's frustrating and it's stressful.
Yeah.
Literally every time I'm at a store and they ask me, would you like the receipt? I'm not even kidding. My response is, I don't, but my bookkeeper will kill
Yes,
me if I don't take
exactly.
it. And they're
Exactly.
like, oh, okay. It's like, no, seriously, I need that receipt. Yeah,
It's like a
100%.
it's like a self-worth thing, you know? It's like I am worth hiring this out. And
Well,
sometimes
and
people
it's
will question that. Well, they'll say, "Well, you can just do that yourself. Why are you spending money on getting this done for you when you could do it yourself?" Because my time is worth
100%.
spending that money
The
on someone else
The
to do
other
it.
thing, I look at it not as me, but as my business. So I
Yes.
want a bunch of experts working in my business. Certain
Mm,
areas I'm the expert. Bookkeeping is not one of the areas I'm an expert. So now I have someone else doing that. Even marketing is not my forte, right? Like scheduling all that crap. No, I don't want
yeah,
to do that.
yeah,
So it's recognizing, and then I get to recognize my staff for their expertise, right? I have
yes.
a staff meeting coming up this week, and it's like, okay, guys, there was this couple questions, things I wanted to tweak, and it's like, I'm not doing that till I talk to the team because it involves their work. They're the experts in those areas. This is
Yeah.
what I want as an end result. What do you think is going to get me there, right? So
Yeah, because you have to let
recognizing
them bring their expertise to the table,
100%,
right? This
100%.
is what they do. You know, your marketing person, this is what she does. You've got to let
Yeah,
her, like, I'm very much of the hiring philosophy, if there's anything like that, of the philosophy of just hiring the best people you can think of to do that thing and then let them do that thing. I'm not a
and get out of
micromanager
their
by any
way,
means.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Neither am I. Like, and
yeah.
literally, well, I can remember years ago. How long has Miranda been with me? Like 11 years. My graphic designer. And in the beginning, I was like, okay, I need a poster for this seminar. Here's the title. Here's the mood I'm trying to create. Maybe this for an image. Go. Oh, and here's the text that needs to go on the poster. And she would come back, what do you want for like colors or fonts or whatever?
Like,
And I
I don't
responded with,
know.
not my job. Like, I
Make it
make it
look
look good.
pretty. Yeah.
Right. And it just got to the point where every time she sent me her first draft, it blew me out of the water every single time. It's like, woman, why? Like, thank you for asking, but like, done, print, right?
Yeah.
So just because I knew, like, if I design it, it's going to look ugly. That's why I hired you, right? Because I think, actually, true story with my first book. Oh my God, my publisher was so amazing to work with. This was my first book. This was my baby. Like I was
Well,
so nervous
yeah.
and so,
That's
oh,
a
I gotta,
huge.
right? So it
Yes.
came to the cover, and she had a team working with her, and it's like, okay, I know what I want for a cover. And she was so good. Oh, okay. So what do you want? So I described it, and I had this image in my mind. It was totally awesome. So she said, okay, what we're going to do, I'm getting the team, they're going to come up with 3 ideas and yours. And I'm going to send you all 4 back when it's all mastered and everything. And you get to decide which. It's your book.
Okay. That sounds good.
My idea looked like a kindergarten student designed it. Compared to it was like, I wrote back, it's like, okay, we're going to forget I ever suggested that.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not my area of expertise. And thank you so much. And like, oh my God.
And that takes
But
a
she
certain
handled it so
maturity to,
well,
yes. It takes a
right?
certain maturity to admit that we, even when it's our business, that we
Yeah,
don't know the best way to do everything about everything all the time. Like I've
yeah,
had to take a step back on marketing and social media stuff in that sense and just let go and let Dana,
yep,
you know,
right?
because this is not what I'm trained for. This is not where my experience lies. Even though
Yeah.
I can do a post and I think it looks pretty cool, um, that's yeah. You've got
Yep.
to let go and let the professionals do what they do.
Same with Anna, my social media person, in that she takes one of my blog posts and adds an image to it. Like she'll pull out one sentence and do an image with it. And it sounds terrible because we call it our favorite game. She sends over like 8 of them and gets my impression of them if I want anything tweaked.
Right.
And Every single time. Like I've looked at some of her images and went, wow, that is really good. And then I remember I wrote it. It was like, okay, that's kind of wrong. But it just looks so amazing. And she makes it so much more powerful by adding, and she's so amazing at finding the perfect image. So
Nice.
yeah, again, not my forte, don't have the time. Like by the time I found one image, she's done like 25. Right?
Well,
Like it
right,
just
because
goes on.
that's what she does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as
Okay.
tenacity is
Yes.
concerned, I think one of the important aspects is understanding. So the analogy we use, we, Anishinaabe,
Mhm.
not all of us, a lot of us, whatever I'd use,
Okay. All right.
is the river analogy for life. That
Okay.
you're going down the river, but the river has rocks. The
Yeah.
river has rapids. It also has beautiful shores. It's not personal. It's just the river, or it's just life. And I
Yeah.
think an important aspect of tenacity is not only, wow, I made it through whatever that was, and taking the time to celebrate that, but understanding other challenges will come.
Yes.
So I
You
know,
never get there. There is
right?
no there.
There
There's
is
it's
no,
just
like, if
here.
you're in a smooth sailing, like, count your blessings, enjoy it, take a deep breath, take a nap,
Yep.
because it may not last till tomorrow.
Yeah.
And one of the things in my reconciliation work, I'm always explaining to my non-Indigenous audiences that we need more acceptance from them rather than a constant need for them to understand. And what I mean by that, I'm always explaining to them that you may never understand why we smudge or why we do certain ceremonies. What
Mhm.
we need you to do is accept it's important to us. I may
Yeah.
never understand why you know, practice Ramadan, right? I don't
Yep.
need to understand that. I need to accept it's important to you and
Yep.
hold
You need
space
to
so you can
respect
do
it.
that.
It's a respect thing.
Right? The
Yeah.
other side of the coin, now for internalized, marginalized, racialized, and by the way, women are a
Mhm.
racial or a marginalized group.
Yep.
I think we accept too much.
Oh,
We
okay.
accept less than often. We
Mhm.
accept lousy treatment from someone.
Mhm.
We accept like more in our younger, Millie's going, what? No, more in our younger
Yeah,
years
yeah,
than
yeah.
now.
Yep.
But,
No, I
and
agree.
we
Yeah.
just, and I know for Indigenous people, I was going to say Indigenous women, but I'm pretty sure this is across the board, no matter what gender. Um, we accept high blood pressure and diabetes as a
Mhm.
given. Neither have to be. And I was so lucky. My mom suffered from both,
Mhm.
but she drilled into our heads that this does not have to be your future. And I've done the same thing with my kids. Be careful. It's in your bloodline. This is, hereditary. This is your tendencies. Be careful.
Yeah.
So maybe a year ago, my doctor started getting concerned about my blood pressure. Well, I now have my diabetic testing equipment as of Friday.
Oh,
Not
yay.
because not because I'm diabetic, but because I have an amazing doctor and she's noticing the numbers starting to go up and she's like, we're going to start tracking this now. I need to see what you're doing. So change the diet, kicked up the exercise because I'm not accepting. And that's my tenacity coming out
Mhm.
that no, like my mom was 72 when she got diagnosed diabetic. She had battled high blood pressure. I don't remember a time when my mom didn't have high blood pressure. So that's how
Yeah.
long. But she was 72 when she got diagnosed diabetic. And for 4 years, my mom controlled it with diet and exercise. My 72-year-old mom started walking for 45 minutes twice a day. They
Good for
canceled her
her.
knee surgery because she no longer needed it. She lost so much weight. They had to adjust her blood pressure medicine because she lost so much weight. So I am my mother's daughter, and it's like, okay, I'm not there yet. And of course, at first I was thinking, is this my 4 years? Like, oh my God, because
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
four
because
years she started getting medicated, and then only 2 years later she passed away. So
yeah.
scary story. And I have to keep reminding myself, mom, Sandy, this is pre-testing, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not there yet.
Yes.
You have some say. We're just being really super cautious.
Proactive. Yeah.
Right. And so many people I know would not find tenacity. They would just accept. They would give up. This is
Yeah.
my path meant to be. And it's like, no, don't do
Yeah.
that. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your future.
Yeah.
Don't give up on your health. And I don't care how old you are. I was at hot yoga on Saturday with a couple of girlfriends, and my girlfriend's like, I was mentioning my upcoming birthday, and she was like, and you go, girl, because you're here, right? And that's it,
Exactly.
exactly. Like, be careful of the stories you tell yourself,
Well, and
right?
aging is one of those stories we tell ourselves too,
100%,
right?
right?
So, yes, it's very easy to start, especially once you hit middle age, it's very easy to start telling yourself those stories of, I'm too old for,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's a very insidious trap that we can fall into. And I've been guilty of it too. I'm too old for, I don't know, name something, right?
yeah,
But it's every once in a while you also come back and you read some news story or some listicle of people who accomplished amazing things in their 70s and their 80s and their
yes,
90s.
yes,
It doesn't, 50, God knows, does not have to be the end of the road. 60 is not the end of the road.
yeah. I read,
70 is not.
yeah, I read somewhere, what was it? Uh, we don't stop moving because we got older. We get older because we stop moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that I've been adamant about for years, again, I read it somewhere. I have interesting sources for information, obviously.
Ah.
But this article pointed out that we tend to age from the feet up. So the
Oh, now
first thing we
that's an
stop,
interesting way to put it. I
so
like
the
that.
first thing we do is stop walking or running, like the
Yeah.
things to do with our legs, right? We're still doing things with our arms or with our
Right.
body, but right? And so that's why I religiously do my cardio on the treadmill.
Hmm.
Because I want to keep that part moving, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, so tenacity is not only handy in the past to get you to where you are, and I guarantee everyone listening to this, you can list off things you've overcome.
Hmm.
Stubborn, tenacity, whatever way you want to go with that. But hang on to it because you never know what's coming next, right?
Hmm.
And it might require digging deep. And it's like, okay, we can do this. The way I look at it is I've been through worse. I've had
Yeah.
bigger scares, right? So,
Yeah.
like, whatever, it's still within my reach. And even like, even if I had to start taking medication, it's still within my reach. I can still do the exercise. I can still eat much better because I'm not accepting this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not accepting that just because you get older, you get bigger. Like, no, that's another story I don't want to tell myself, right? So, does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah, it does. And yet at the same time, there also has to be some acceptance that things do change with age, with our bodies, and that's okay too. Like
Yeah,
I've got a good, I don't know, 20 pounds of flub that hasn't moved in some time, and it may
yeah,
not. And I have
yeah,
to be okay with that. I have a belly. I have a
yeah.
belly now. And I'm not particularly thrilled with it. And Lord knows it's made my clothing choices,
Different. Yeah,
different. But and I can do all the healthy things, but at the same
yeah,
time I am not so dedicated to the idea of staying the same as I was that I'm going to torture myself or that I'm going to harm myself or that I'm going to make myself miserable trying to get back to some some standard in my head that
yeah,
may or may not be possible for me anymore.
yeah.
The,
I'm
at some
definitely not.
points, yeah,
Yeah, I'm not doing it for size. Like
yeah,
I could care two beans what size my clothes are. For me, it's all about the health. And honestly,
yeah.
when I did that hot yoga class, I have gained 50 pounds since I moved back from Toronto. So not great.
Mm,
And what I heard in that yoga class, I've had other people, like medical professionals, suggest
yeah.
that I lose weight. For the first time, I heard my body tell me I need to lose
Ooh.
weight. And I was like, you know what?
Okay,
You're
then
right.
that's
Like
different.
I need to hear you now. Like I have not been honoring you the way I should be.
Yeah.
And that's where my focus is. So it's not just like it's just time. Like I mentioned in a
Okay.
blog
Yeah.
post last week, My 50s were all about finding out who I was, my wisdom, my strength, my skill set, accepting how powerful I am now. My
Yeah.
60s will be taking care of that person that carries all those things. Right.
Love that.
So, yeah. So that's tenacity.
Yes. Well, not giving up on yourself. Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I want to be around for a long time to harass Millie and shoot podcasts. So, yes. So, we're coming to the end here. So
Yes.
we quote the book we're currently reading and the book we recommend.
Okay. Well, the quote, I think I got this from Marie Kondo, the life-changing
Yes,
magic of
yes,
tidying up.
yes.
So this is on my vision board or my bulletin board over there. It says, do I need it? Do I use it? Do I love it? And that's sort of the criteria I kind of have in the back of my head when I'm cleaning things up. Do I need this thing? Do I use this thing? Do I love this thing? And if any one of those things is true, then I can hold
stays.
on to it and
Yeah.
it can stay. And if none of those things are true, then it's time to let that go. And that's been very helpful for me too. My mom's not a hoarder, but she likes her stuff and she is comfortable in a level of stuffness that I'm not. So, but it's very easy. It's very easy to collect and it's very easy to accumulate.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to kind of keep an eye on. The book I'm reading now, I'm actually in the middle of a trashy romance novel. I will not share the title because it's trash. I don't want to encourage trash. Well, I will tell people about where I get my trash because I get them for free. It's called BookBub, BOOKBUB.com. You sign up for a newsletter. It comes either daily or weekly, whatever you want. And it will run through bargain books or free books that you can just download to your Kindle. So I get all my trashy novels as freebies from there.
Wow.
Right?
Okay, we got to put that in the show notes for people.
Okay.
I think I have to check out some trash, but anyways, okay.
Yeah, and I guess as far as a recommendation goes, I don't want to recommend anything I'm currently reading because, for one thing, I'm currently reading far too many things, and I don't know yet. But over at my case here, and this one is a favorite of mine as well. I have a lot of productivity books. Those are the ones I tend to buy in hard copy.
Yep.
And I don't recommended this one already, but this is basically about focus. It's called The One Thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. And the idea is figuring out what is the one thing that I can do today that's going to move the needle. What's the one thing I can do this month or this quarter? What's the one thing that if I accomplished it this year is really going to get me to where I want to go? So for you, the one thing for your health might be, committing to getting on that treadmill every single day for however many things. And if you just do that one thing, then you're moving the needle and then you can relax about all the other things.
100%.
There's only so many things you can do.
I'm so going to get that book.
So. Oh, you absolutely should. You absolutely should. Yeah. So that's that. What do you got?
That's recommended. Oh, reading you can tell us because it's trash.
It's trash.
That we're going to let her get away with it this time. Okay. Right. So here's my quote. I don't know. This just blew me away. So I don't know who it's by. Oh, wait a minute. The Enlightened Consciousness posted it. I got it from social media. So it says, my life started to get better when I realized I didn't have to be nice. Nice only got me ran over, stressed out, used, and disrespected. I'm not nice. I'm a good person. There's a difference.
Oh, I'm going to get that tattooed on my ass.
Well, maybe not on your ass, but
well, because if anybody's reading that tattooed on my behind, I think it's already established that I'm not a nice person.
Right? So
I love that.
It's resonated with everyone. Like I posted it on my social media and the likes is just like, because as women, we're taught, be nice, right?
Be a lady.
And 100%. And it's like, no, don't be nice, especially if they're not being nice. And I don't mean put them in charge of your life, but
Yep.
you're a good person that deserves good treatment and good things. And
Mm.
don't be nice if that's not what's happening. So
That's what I needed to
they,
hear in my early 20s, man. I needed to hear
right,
that. Yep.
right.
That would have saved me
Yes,
a whole lot
yes,
of aggravation.
yes. Viewers, listeners, if you know someone, a woman in their mid 20s, maybe share this with them and tell
Please.
them, even if you just tell them to go to whatever timestamp it is for that quote, make sure they receive it. Now, the one thing about tenacity, I guess, sometimes, like I'm all about learning new things, but sometimes I have to relearn things.
Yeah, I think we all
So,
do.
right. So when I mentioned that my marriage crashed and burned and I sold off everything and moved to Toronto, um, it was not, it was a really scary time. It was not a fun time in my life. And I
Sure.
knew my mindset was going to get me out of this. Like I had to believe I could. So I think I had to spare $30 to my name. It was definitely not an affluent time in my life. And I went to chapters and I went to the self-help section and I was like, okay, I need something to get me in a good mindset. And every single book I looked at, it was like, it's a process, it's a journey. And I'm thinking, I don't have time for a process or a journey. I need to change my mindset now because I have to decide what to do with this house. Am I staying here? Am I going?
Yeah.
Like, I need decisions now. So this is older than dirt, but I grabbed Awaken the Giant Within
Oh, I have that
by
around here somewhere
Tony
too.
Robbins.
Yes.
And literally, I read it, and I honestly think it saved my life at that point because I realized I could make decisions right now and I could change things just by making a different decision. And it was so powerful. Like I've given this to young women who are struggling. It's like, no, you need to read this book. Now they've reprinted it, they've added
Hmm.
a whole bunch of stuff. But
Hmm.
I've decided, look at how many cubbies. It looks like it needs
Right?
a haircut, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
had that edition as well. I don't know
right?
where it is
And
anymore, but I've got it.
highlights like you wouldn't believe.
Yes.
So it was just time to go back and revisit that. As far as a recommendation, I'm going to go to my career for a second because
Hmm.
often when people watch my videos or listen to the podcast or whatever, they want to learn more about like Indigenous worldview or like the way I look at things. Like, where did that come from? I would love to learn more of that. So,
Okay.
totally self centering, I'm recommending my last book, which is called I Am Awake. And it's the best of 3 years of blog posts. Like I looked at for every day, I had 3 different blog posts because I write a blog post every day. And I picked the most popular. And if you want to not only learn about an Indigenous worldview, but realize how much we have in common with each other, that the
Yeah.
fears, the circumstances might be different, the fear is the same. Um, I During that year when the book came out, every blog post I did started with I am awake, I am alive. I'm acknowledging and giving thanks for the fact that I've been given another day and I'm alive. I'm aware to what's going on, the opportunities, I'm preparing for what comes next, packing a good canoe, as my elder would say. So that's this book, and it's it's the size of War and Peace,
Oh.
but it's a daily motivational guide. So you just read the little story for today, or look up your birthday, or whatever you want to do. But for something that's an easier read,
Hmm.
but will give you that enlightenment in the way, like it's not an academic book. It's like you and I sat at a kitchen table, and I shared some stories with you. And because of that, you started to learn how Indigenous feel or see things. And I
Yeah.
may or may not have told Canada to F off a couple times in the book. I'm just
Well,
just
sometimes
saying.
Canada needs to hear it,
So,
you
yeah,
know?
so that's what I'm recommending. So there we go. That
Awesome.
is tenacity. Now, the next time I am looking forward to our conversation because this may be a cultural difference.
Okay.
Next time, the H is for Is it still humility? I should look it up, right?
We should probably clarify
Oh
what
no,
exactly
you
stands
know
for.
what it is? The original path was humility. This one's going to be so good, so powerful. The H is for help,
Help.
asking for help. And we need to have a conversation about that because way too many people think
Yeah.
that's a sign of weakness, and it's
Yes.
actually a sign of wisdom. Wrong W word.
That is
So,
always something I've struggled with a lot.
yeah,
So yes, we're definitely gonna have a great conversation around that.
awesome. I don't struggle. I have no clue how to do this. Can you help me? Do you know how many emails I send out where the subject line is help?
You've sent me a couple.
Right? And talk to my IT guy. He gets those on a regular basis. But anyway,
Awesome.
so once again, this was absolutely awesome, Millie. I adore you. You're amazing. To
Right
everyone
back at you.
listening, watching, wherever you're receiving this, I hope something resonated with you. If you have questions, feel free to comment. The video is posted under podcasts on my YouTube channel. You can find us both on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We're pretty easy to find.
Oh
It's
yeah.
social media. You can find us. So, any last words, Millie?
I need to know if there is an Ojibwe term for middle-aged.
I'm going to guess no,
Because it
because
seems to be
we don't.
you're youth or you're an elder.
No, actually, there's 4 stages that
Okay.
we value. So, babies,
Mhm.
like the wisdom of the babies is always be excited, always trying new things, always appreciate and be happy with discovering something new. So that's the wisdom of the babies. The youth are the activists. We all know the teenager that wants to change the world because the adults screwed it up.
Right.
Problem is the youth, both the baby and the youth stage are learning stages. It's just
Yeah.
higher learning at the youth stage. The adult stage is the action stage where you
Okay.
shouldn't just be learning. Now you should be sharing your truth and making change and encouraging change. So, like what we do with this podcast is 100% adult stage, which I
Okay.
love. And
Mhm.
then the final stage is the elder stage. So the elder stage is more the reflection, the learning, the passing on of the skills and the wisdom. So I always say I'm like right on the line
Yeah.
in
Yeah. Like
between
this
adult and
this
elder,
podcast
right?
is starting to
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's covering both of those bases a little bit for sure.
exactly. Sharing from our experience, but
Yeah.
also acknowledging, like, encouraging change that we're still changing. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So there probably wouldn't be because it's the 4 stages as opposed to middle, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Interesting.
and the other thing is in Anishinaabe culture, um, age is so valued. Like
Mhm.
we cherish our elders. I always, when I first started this business, I actually had people who had hired me say, "Oh, I thought you'd be older," because they understood that older people carried wisdom. So, as a female growing up in like mainstream society, I picked the best career to go to get
No
older in,
kidding.
right? Like
Absolutely.
our
Yeah, because
culture values you more as you
that's not
get
the
older.
experience in mainstream slash white culture. It's all about you've
100%.
got a gray hair, you're of no use to us anymore. Go over there and
Yeah,
die, please.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I like to think that
Meanwhile,
it's changing to some degree, but yeah, that's still a bit of
yeah,
more of a thing on my side of the
which
feather anyway.
yeah, which is why, oh, I love that you said that. Oh, and that's why I always share my age. Like, I don't have an issue. I've always been that way, and it catches some people off guard. And it's like, no, I worked hard to get here. And
Yeah,
there, in my culture, that comes with a certain respect
yeah.
that I am understood to have 60 years of experience now. So
And credit
ask
where it's
me a
due.
question, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Well, there's a tangent, and we can probably do an entire podcast just on that. But thank you everyone for
totally.
joining us this time, and we are going to look forward to talking about help and how we can accept it and how we can give it next time on the path.
Very good. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.